Okay, so let's take a look at Unit G with the 2016 tours. You'll notice you have two tabs on the bottom of your screen, just to be sure. And I'm just checking audio to see if we're getting any sound input. Hopefully we are. Nevertheless, I'm looking at this table here as we open it up. And as the instructions have us work with tables, you're basically using this for filters. How do you define a table? A table, once it's defined, is able to manipulate data in various ways. So we make a selection, and you go at format table is one of the ways, or inserting also and table. But once you do that, that table is already defined. So in this case, our table is already defined when we open this up. However, formatting it as table can change the way the format can be laid out. You'll notice as I'm clicking, I'm able to adjust the design of the table in different colors and shapes, and the titles and whatnot come out based on the style I want. Once it's defined, then you can format. You see what I mean? So what we're looking at here is the data for the table. Now, whenever you have a table, you have table data. Now, you'll also notice that table 1 is defined here. This is really the area of your table, and you can see how the table information can be seen. Okay. You also have your tab on your right-hand side for design. Take a look at that, and you'll see how the ribbon can be used to show the different features. Your total row is a row that comes on the bottom. You'll be using that in this chapter to actually look for certain amounts. For instance, in this row, as it's being visible, you'll be able to get the average count numbers, max, minimum of any particular amount. You're going to learn how to add data to your table. What you should know about that, like for instance, see here, I have the average of 13. If I say count how many records there are here, there are 63 records, which in the case of a table, these are considered records, and these columns are considered fields, okay? And each one of these is a separate record. Now, Excel uses tables to manipulate data. What you're observing here are what they call these little arrows that go down. Okay, let me see what the name for this guy. If you're looking at certain data, let's go to page 158. And you'll see what we're talking about. Okay, for instance, when you're looking at a certain record, Pearls of the Orient, for instance, this record with this data, as you'll see, you can scroll down, your headers are visible at the top. They want you to scroll up and down and use the edge of the table data row, showing the list arrow, the insert list arrow. What is the insert list arrow? Well, if you're looking at table design, you'll see an insert list, I believe. The insert slicer here, or selecting one. Insert list is here for inserting cells or rows, and we're looking to put a new cell to enter another record. You'll notice that when I click this, you have your insert cells, insert sheet rows, sheet columns, or table rows above a table row below. table rows above or below is what I think we want, and I believe it's table row here. List arrow cells group, you want table rows above, right? You'll notice that you add data to this. You also have this insert option. You can format the same as what you're going to put data in as below or above, which is, it's not really, any difference. But, if you want to maintain the same format, you might want to use that. And you're going to enter the new record in there, which is A6. Well, really, it's going to be an A6, but in cell A6, you're going to enter Yellowstone 128/216 for the date. Now, in my case, I did it in the wrong place, so I would insert. Notice that if I select a 5, I don't get the insert table rows above. But if I just make a selection of 1, I get my table rows above. It's kind of tricky when you're working with Excel, because selecting the 5 means that you're selecting the whole row, which is all of this other external data. But don't worry about that. Just one click inside of your cell, and you'll insert table rows above. You enter your record in there. This is what you'll see. Hit my right arrow. Number of days 18, right? 51. And then the money, of course, should show up as money. Yes would be yes, and yes would be yes. See how easy that would be? Now, meanwhile, what you want to know about this, really, when you do this, is that you're going to be manipulating your totals row to, in effect, have certain information displayed based on what you want to see. Average, max, number, or minimum count based on these columns. You're going to want to know how to filter data. You'll notice that the tour department dates here, you may not see the initial information, but you could spread it out. But what's important is really to know that you're able to filter data on the fly. This is where it becomes important to know how to manipulate large amounts of data that maybe you need to sort out. Let's look at seat capacity. If I need to see a certain number of seat capacities, and I'm just really making this up, the book is going to show you some techniques to do that, but you'll notice the seat capacity based on this filter, 18, 19, 20, 21, 23, show me the seat capacities that are here between this range. Okay, select all, and it goes back to normal. The other part about the section is how you're going to use these for calculated fields. Seats available and visa required. All you'll need to do really is go to the bottom of your table and use this table sizing tool here, and you're going to open this up. That'll create new fields selected in your table. Note column 1, column 2. If you do not do it this way, you run the risk of having information not connected to the rest of your data. So remember that. I'm doing this to let you know what's ahead for the chapter itself, but you can see later on some of the highlights is really what I'm focusing on with regard to this. Simple formula again. What you're going to see is seats available, which is what? Seat capacity minus the seats reserved. I'm just going to go to page 167. using formulas in table. Just to see exactly how this would work for you, using this is the same way, but you're using tables in forms of data. So you use your bracket. I think that's what we call this, the bracket. It's really the open bracket will show the fields that are inside of your table as it's defined. And you're looking at seat capacity. So double clicking seat capacity would select that. You would immediately close that bracket and then open another one to say what the next would be. And if it is seats reserved, what you're getting now is what's left over for these two columns. Seat capacity and seats reserved means there's no seats left available. And notice how it filtered down throughout the entire table. This little corner box right here, they're talking about the autocorrect options, is to say if you want to have this automatically calculate go down or not. Because you may have options where you want this done for the entire column, or you might not, but if you don't, you can just tell it to do the undo the calculation. Nevertheless, double-clicking shows you how you set it up, and there's your formula. And it's better than the other one. When you don't have a table defined, you'll notice that you have to copy it down, don't you? In this case, no. I don't think the visa required is a column that they use, so you may get rid of that eventually. Really for Unit G, manipulating tables and using filters is where we are with this. And what you're looking at is multiple selections. So maybe you want just people with 4 seats reserved. Notice that's it. It just automatically does. How do you turn this off? Okay, let's go to Design, no, Data, and hit Filter. And it resets. Okay? And that's that for tables. So what we're looking at now is Unit H. Now, Unit H, analyzing table data, is a different way to filter. It's still working with custom filters. In the same case, you're using a similar table, if not the same one. What document we have here? Yep, Yellowstone is the same thing here. So you're looking at filtering the table, and we can go ahead and open up the EXH1 if I have it. Gonna see if we have the Unit G, but I'm gonna go back, see if I open up Unit H, see if that brings us up into this. Hopefully you see it now. Same data, same information. Basically now what we're looking at is selecting certain types of data and filtering from that. Remember, you're using your filter arrows here. That's what mainly we're doing throughout all of these chapters. It's no big deal to kind of, see how the overview works, okay? And creating custom filters is really simple. They'll show you this on the next page, on page 180, 181. Now, what I really want you to pay attention to is working with advanced filters. So let me show you that right quick. On page 182 is where they're talking about using a criteria range. Now, what we need to do is create an area between rows 1 and 6. I'm going to go ahead and do that by selecting all of this, clicking the Insert and Insert Sheet Rows. One click. You'll get this data to move down. It's the best way rather than, you might think that we want to select it and move it down, but, it's better if you do it like this. What we're looking at now is creating the criteria range. Now, I'm going to do this. The book has its steps to do this, and you want to follow the steps to do this, which is essentially the same thing as creating the title here. Right-click and copy. your title row here. Go to cell A1 and paste. That's the best way to do the criteria range. With the selection of both rows, you name it in your name box. The word criteria is known in Excel as a memory location for Excel to filter data. So it's going to assign these titles with this row here and give us an extract range. Notice I have table 1, 2, and 3, but all of this is the same thing. You see, we have 3 sheets down here, so be careful what table we are working with. With this table 1 is probably the criteria area that I executed this on. Now, I didn't check that in here, so we want to make sure we're in the right table. You'll be doing some other things with lookups soon as well, and we'll discuss that. Right now, you're creating the criteria area, and you're going to, in cell B3, well, it says click cell B3. We need the criteria range probably in both areas. We're going to type greater than June 1st, June 1st, rather. Less than 2,000. They say to click the checkbox up here because, that'll just assign the value without moving your cell when they tell you to do that. So in any table of the cell, click your data tab. Now this is where the data comes in. I did it in B2 and F2. I guess we have it down 1, which I believe so. Yeah, it is. It's supposed to be down 1, but I didn't take that into account. So if I insert a row, my criteria range doesn't change. So at least you'll know that'll work for you. We're going to click the Advanced button when we click in our table. Let's go to our Data tab, click the Advanced button. You'll notice that the dialog box that pops up shows you the list that we're using, the list range, which is the table, the criteria range, which is above that, and it knows the criteria range from the definition that we have already. And we want to filter the records in place. You'll notice when I click OK, I'm not getting any data that comes in, but it does work. In effect, what I'm supposed to have is anyone that's above June 1st and less than 2,000. So when I click filter, it turns off again. You'll notice that I could get it back when I click my filter. I'm just going to check my data right now to see if it's greater than. You see, notice I have a greater than missing. Now these symbols are what we use to filter the data as well. You have different filters for this, and you'll see that they're called conditional operators, and they're discussed in your last chapter about how you would use filters for that. But let's just take a look again at this part. So you can see the criteria area. Once I do this, select Advanced, there's my data based on these criteria. And that's how that works. Now you can do this for any amount of data that you have. There's another way to do this as well, which is called the extract. And I'll give you an example of that right now. Because in addition to this area, you need to have another area called the extract area. What we'll do is, we'll again copy your title. Go down. Now, for the extract area, we're looking at A75. There's different ways to do this, but I'm going to look at A75. for this copy to another location. Observe this as we do this advanced. I click the advanced, filter pops up, I got my criteria, but now I want to copy to another location, and I type A75. What do we get? Results appear below from that criteria. There's another way to do this, which is creating an extract range or an extract area and have it automatically copy there, or just tell Excel that that's where you want to copy the data that you get from these criteria. So let's just go over this really once again, and I'll give you an example that's not in the book. But I want people with a seat capacity over 40. So what do I want? Greater than 40. That's it. I've got them greater than 40. So the seat capacity that's greater than 40, I want to extract to A75. You notice Excel screen moving with me as I do that. So who is a seat capacity over 40? You'll see the names pop up, and then we have these seat capacities here. I think because this data has been here, we might have to do this another way. So let me get rid of this. Clear contents. Let's do it again. Seat capacity of over 40, and see if we can get that to work. And you'll see here, everyone has a seat capacity of over 40. It's one of the more simple ways to use Excel to extract large amounts of data, and it's not unusual that you would get information that you have to filter out rather quickly. So, you know. Now, you will go through some of the other formulas in here, for instance, using a lookup, VLOOKUP. And in the case of the VLOOKUP, you're clicking the Lookup Sheet tab, which is here. And you'll notice there's some information on this side that you need to use for the lookup functions, okay? Now, the Formulas tab in the ribbon and the Name Manager, you'll look here, and you'll see this is the Name tab. We're looking for a formula called VLOOKUP, so you click in here. You'll look up VLOOKUP by typing VLOOKUP. Maybe if I type partial characters, it will show something close to it. Yeah? VLOOKUP. We need to use this feature, but we need to be in the cell that we're going to use that. So click M1 before you do that. Okay? Let's go over to cell M1. In fact, if you typed M1 here, this would take you to M1. You'll see the trip code, which is where you're going to put that VLOOKUP. You're going to enter in there 830L. So let's do that real quick. Trip code will be that. Clicking M2 will give you the lookup reference button is what we want in here. So let's go ahead and put that. I should find it here. Okay. You get a 4-parameter lookup value. First thing it needs to know is what's the lookup value that we want. And with that first part, I think we want the table, the M1, to be the lookup value. So let's just click the M1 box because that's where it comes from. Whatever's in there is what we're looking at. Based on that, the table 2 is the array. So I'm going to go through here and look for table 2 or type it. But let's see if I can find it in this list. Will it allow us? No, I can't see it. Okay. No, I won't be able to click it, so I'll have to use table 2 as the array. Knowing that that's what the table name is, and this is why you gotta know. See, it'll tell you if it's invalid or not based on what we have as our tables listed. Column index would be the second column in that table, which you'll put here, and then if you want it to find the exact match and it doesn't find what it needs to look for, you'll type false. It'll just return that if it doesn't find the answer. Click OK, and you'll notice that the trip code is related to Old Japan. That's what the VLOOKUP should do, is tell you what the tour is coming from when you're using that. And you'll see here some of the names here. For instance, Old Japan is related to that. Now again, how does the VLOOKUP work? It takes the table into account. It uses your column, and if it doesn't find what it has for a result, it'll give you a return of false. And M1, which is the trip code, without the trip code from M1, you wouldn't be able to get the lookup from the table. And it's the second column results that you need. That's why the number 2 is here, because in this table, you want the results to show up here from that column. What does that have to do relating to that column? And that's really why you have this column right there, second column. So that's how the VLOOKUP works. You can practice it yourself, and it's something that, is good to know with Excel. And I think the rest is pretty straightforward. We're looking at putting in the number of seats available. You'll see some other information that you got to change on unit H in the end. You'll be calculating the number of seats available here from the L5 and L6. Okay, and based on that, we should be done with the chapters. Your data tab on here for validating data, again, will be the same thing. You're going to validate data at the bottom of your sheet. You'll see that on page 190. And really what data validation is to let the person know that, they have to type in a certain amount of information correctly. Otherwise, it will throw back a sort, information. So if there's any questions, let me know with regard to this. What we're going to do now is talk about the final in general and see how we go with that. I've had a couple of submissions, which I'm going to share, which I think is good. Let me see if I can get to Moodle. Now, the main thing really is to just check once a week prices that would change off of perishable products. And I'll share that with you right now from here. Let's go down and see if this is what we need for data collection. Depending on what you do, here's an example of what we could use, but what we don't need really is any other type of information in here, like the chart, for instance. Not necessary at this point, because you really just want to get what dates you have and make the dates go across. Okay, this is Anthony's, and what we want to do is put the data here. You'll have your dates going across, and each week you'll be checking for the dates. In this case, we're looking at, if it's every Monday, 18th, 29th, let's see, okay, and we're looking for maybe one more week. It's just real short the way it's going right now. Okay, hopefully you can see this. And what I'm doing is just moving these things around so that you can see how the prices might go for once a week. And yeah, prices are per gallon. See? First week, second week, third week, fourth week. That would be kind of the design that you would want. And really all it is just keeping track of this, and for the next 3 or 4 weeks. Chart, we just want to make a line chart from these numbers once they're filled in. But once we get together again on the 1st of September, 2nd September, we'll go over these 3 weeks. But this is what I would expect you to have for that layout. But that's really it. When it comes to the course survey, you'll see that in Cruiser. Why don't you go in there and have a conversation? Gotta leave a comment. Find out what you learned from the class, and update your stock portfolio. You want to see how your stocks are doing. You want to see what's going on. And if you have any questions, call me or find me on the internet. And send me a mail. Okay. That's it for now, and we'll talk later on.